Hi, I'm Ash and welcome to this review of the Naish Neutron. The Neutron is described by Naish as a wave freeride wing. It comes in sizes from 1.6 to 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 meters, so no half sizes like many manufacturers, with generally 1 meter jumps between the wings. The leading edge and strut are made from standard Dacron. The canopy is a single material which is quad tacks, a very well respected and durable ripstop. The wing itself is quite a compact, low aspect design with an aspect ratio of around 2.2. Wingspan for the 5 meter is 3.35 meters and the strut length is 2.05 meters. The 4 meter is 2.99 meters wingspan and 1.83 meters strut length. The wing is a boom wing utilising a carbon handle which can easily be removed when the wing is deflated. The boom inserts under tabs on the strut. The wing in the video is missing the tabs on the boom inserts to make it easy to remove the boom, as it is a very late prototype before those were added. The leading edge features the usual reinforcements on the wingtip seams, Kevlar patches on the end of the wingtips and strut, load spreaders at the wingtips and at the end of the strut, and a double seam along the trailing edge to resist stretch. The canopy has 2 hard plastic battens per wing. It comes with a Naish wrist leash with a Velcro wrist collar, no swivel and a Dyneema style shock cord. The boom is of a good diameter and oval shaped, a little narrower than the Duotone unit and therefore well suited to use in cold water weather where gripping will be easier in gloves without creating too much forearm burn. There is some minimal plastic padding on the front of the boom. I prefer a little more to protect my board from impacts with the boom, so something to improve there in the future. The front flag handle is of a very good size and stiffness and offers the usual soft knuckle protection pad. It's nice to see a good sized stiff handle on a wave orientated wing. The wing does not feature any windows, which ensures maximum lightness. Speaking of which, the 4 meter wing weighs about 2.3 kilograms, which is good and lightweight. I didn't weigh the 5 meter, but expect to add around 300 grams for an extra 1 meter of wing size, so probably in the region of 2.6 kilograms, which again is a good weight for a 5 meter wing. Flagging the wing out on the beach, it is very neutral, producing neither positive or negative lift. The wing is very flat with very little dihedral, and unusually for a wave wing and similar to the Duotone Float, the canopy is reasonably tight even to the rear of the wing. I think the float is probably a little tighter, but this is in that same design window and not relying on canopy looseness to create flagging stability. The wing features a SUP style valve similar to the F1 wings on the leading edge and strut, so double inflation and no single pump system or hoses. Inflation is 7 to 9 psi for the leading edge and the strut. Okay, let's get it onto the water and see how it performs. As usual, we'll be following our normal format for reviewing a wing. The categories are all on the screen, I won't read them out, and we'll start with pumping onto foil. For pumping onto foil, the Neutron certainly has a good amount of low end. I would certainly place it as above average in this category, and among those wings considered to have a very good low end. It is within the category where you can consider running a half meter smaller than a wing with just an average low end. The pump technique is a fairly fast cadence, which is due to its quite taut canopy. There is no other special technique required, which makes the low end very accessible for all riders. At the other end of the spectrum we have the high end, and the Neutron is a little less comfortable here. There are other wings that are both faster and handle being overpowered a little more capably. It's not to say that the Neutron cannot run in these conditions, it just means that you are holding down quite a lot of power and you get the feeling that changing down would be a good idea. It doesn't become unruly in higher winds like older generation wings, it just becomes well powered. In terms of stability, we do have a nice stable wing in all conditions. Balance between the hands is quite neutral, and in big gusts possibly moves a touch towards the front hand. The Neutron does handle gusts reasonably well and does not become overly unsettled. Again, if the gusts are strong, then you might get the feeling you want to size down rather than hold on to the power. For jibes, the Neutron is light and playful and rotates exceptionally well. For advanced jibes like the Heineken jibe or race jibe, it is again very well mannered, light, playful, and just a very nice forgiving wing to use. It would be difficult to ask the Neutron to do much more here. It's very forgiving. It does everything you want it to do, it flies well, it manoeuvres well, the boom makes the handling really easy. It's just a really nice wing to use for advanced jibes. With wave wings, I always worry about tacks because often the canopy has been made loose for flagging stability, and this ruins the tacking. I'm happy to say that the Neutron sits in the same category as the Duotone Float. The canopy is quite tight and therefore it actually tacks very well. The tack does not need to be overly committed, and the Neutron will tolerate both flying on its side or tacking overhead. As the wind gets stronger, the Neutron becomes more assertive and wants to fly overhead in the tack, and it becomes progressively more difficult as wind builds to tack with the wing on its side due to the Neutron wanting to level out. This is not unusual behaviour, and overall I'd say the Neutron actually tacks very well. When it comes to going upwind, the Neutron does pretty well. There are better wings on the market, but it scores high enough in this category. One thing I did notice on the 5 metre wing was that when pushing upwind there was some canopy flap from the trailing edge and the infill panel on the wing. This was a little annoying and not present on the 4 metre. I did get to talk to the designer about this, and only the 5 metre is affected, and there are fixes to it coming in the 2026 Neutron. For jumps, again I wasn't expecting too much of a wave wing, and again I was pleasantly surprised. It jumps well and with good control. The only element it is lacking is some better entry speed to the jump and a bit more lift from the wing for height in the jump. That said, in much stronger winds I did get some quite lofty jumps, but it does take a bit more work than a wing that is faster and more freestyle orientated. With that said, it kind of gives away the speed rating for the wing. It's certainly not slow and performs okay, but there are of course much faster wings on the market that are designed for that speed category. For flagging out, the Neutron is designed to be a wave wing, and it definitely delivers here. It's very neutral, there is no pendulum effect in the wing when flagging, and it follows the rider very capably without wanting to turn over. The Duotone Float is a little more neutral and stable, but the Neutron is definitely very capable for a wave riding wing. This is also helped by its light weight, which stops the tail from dropping when going downwind. Overall, this very capably meets the criteria for a wave orientated wing. I did do a fair bit of backwind riding on the neutral. It does produce good power in the backwind position, and it also cuts very cleanly through the wind in a backwind tack, repowering very quickly and predictably. It does move around a bit backwinded, which would be the only downside for the backwind category. It's reasonably capable for riding backwind, and I got multiple good backwind tacks using it. Overall, I'd say the Neutron is actually well described by Naish as a wave/freeride wing, as it can capably do both. The flag out is very stable, not quite Duotone Float level of stability, but still very good. It can also freeride very capably, and whilst you may not break any speed records, the wing is very nice to freeride and can do almost everything to a reasonable standard. I have been impressed by the Neutron. It would be one of my picks of the year. I think the float slightly pips it on the flag out ability, but it's definitely a wing you should shortlist or demo if you have a wave freeride element to your riding. So let's do some pros and cons. The pros are it's lightweight, it's playful, it flags out nicely on a wave, has a very good low end, and it jumps very well for a wave wing. The cons are it's not overly fast, it does start to flatten out in tacks in stronger winds, there are no windows in this wing if you like that sort of thing, and you can feel overpowered a little earlier than some other wings due to its very good low end. In terms of who this is for, well, I certainly thoroughly enjoyed using the Neutron, so it must be a bit of an all-rounder. I think a beginner or expert could get use out of this particular wing. If you're mostly into freestyle rather than free ride, then a faster wing with more vertical boost would be appropriate. If you're more towards free ride and wave riding, then the Neutron does sit squarely in the sort of thing that you should be looking for. This is definitely a wing to try or get on demo if you have the chance. In terms of pricing, the Naish Neutron 5 meter is £1,039, which does include the carbon boom, so it's kind of in the mid-range for pricing and value for money. Thanks to Alex from Naish UK for loaning me the Neutron 4 meter and 5 meter for a couple of weeks to put together this review.